Good afternoon, Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I am so happy you decided to join us this afternoon. Welcome to our broadcast. If you are new to the Center for Spiritual Living broadcast, I want to tell you a little bit about who we are as we get started. Welcome, welcome. These are the values that we hold dear at the Center for Spiritual Living. And you can tell a lot about an individual or an organization by what it is that they value. And right at the top of our list is spiritual growth and practice. It is the reason that we come together at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. We value love. We value appreciation. We know that appreciation is the thing that can move us up and down that scale of consciousness and feeling the quickest of anything. We value community. We value freedom. We value creativity and health and wholeness, as well as generosity and financial well-being. Our mission at the Center for Spiritual Living is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. Now, that mission is the same as the mission of the larger organization. We are just one of many centers for spiritual living that are located throughout the world, particularly in the United States and Canada, over 400 of us. And our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence, meaning we as a philosophy, we believe that everyone has that divinity within them, and our purpose is to help each and every one of us uncover that so that we can live the best lives that we are capable of living. And our vision at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is a world that works for everyone, and that is what we are working toward. And so I'm going to just take a moment and invite our practitioner, Donna Davis, into the stream to join us this afternoon. Hello, Donna.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I'm so happy to see you. We missed you last week.
I know. I missed you guys, and I tried to tune in and and the darn, it kept dropping and dropping because we were on the road driving. It was just a mess. Finally, I said, okay, I'll just have to go back and later on.
It's all good. It's all good. I was glad to know you were on adventure. And for those who don't know why you were not here, you want to tell them?
Yes. So Norma and I have our first official grandbaby, Miss Corinne. She is so cute, you guys. And we went to Washington to see our son Emmanuel and his girlfriends, and we got a chance to be with the baby. Yeah. So that was what
state too, not DC. So you were like diagonal across the country.
Charlotte took us like 2.5 days to drive, and we ended up stopping halfway. And I was like, I'm done. I have to lay down. So Norma is a beast, man. She practically drove the entire way. It's crazy. What she did. Mm-hmm.
And spirit co-piloting, right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when we hit snow, and she had never driven in snow, and it was just the car was doing this deal right here. And there were semis going by us at 80 miles an hour, and we're still doing this right here. And we're like, how are they? It was, but it was still beautiful. And to see the mountains just covered in snow, it was just breathtaking. So
wonderful.
Yeah, it was just a beautiful ride up. It was a great time coming back on the plane too, because we were getting in the plane at sunrise practically. So I have this beautiful video of being up in the clouds and the sun is coming up. It was just so beautiful.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you ladies are back and that you're a grandma and all is well and your family is growing and good things ahead. So I'm going to take myself out of here and let you lead us in an invocation.
Yes. Okay. Oh my goodness, the excitement of it all, the excitement of life itself just coursing through me. And in this moment, I invite you now to just get centered within your very being, the physical form that you take up, the space that God itself shows up. I recognize the allness of the one first cause. This amazing life energy that is behind all things. It is also through all things. It is all things. It is also the space between all things, the things I can comprehend, see, touch, be a part of, and the things that are beyond my scope of imagination, all of it is God. And since I know that I sit in this very chair and I'm a part of this human experience, then I also know that I too am in that place where the divine shows up as me, living and breathing, thinking and doing and singing and loving and laughing and judging and wrestling with feelings of denial and bitterness and sometimes even hatred. I am the place where the divine energy of God shows up. And I know so too that if I am in that place and everyone else is in that place, all of us living and breathing and having our story unfold with each other. And as I recognize the God center that is each and every other thing, recognizing God in the very mountains and the trees and the birds, in the eyes of my neighbor, in the eyes of my countrymen and women. And as we live our stories out, making decisions from wherever we are in that divine line of consciousness that is always moving upward, wherever we are in our story, I recognize and honor each person where they are on their journey, as I recognize the God essence that is in each and every one of us. It's from that place of connection that I'm so grateful for today's speaker. I'm so grateful for Reverend Cindy. I'm so grateful for how all of us show up. And the message that is this, that pierces through all that is noise and chaos. The truth is shine forward, that God is everywhere present. I'm so grateful for that. And I release all my thoughts back into that beautiful field that is the law, knowing that it's already working for the highest and best of everyone. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is. Thank you, my beautiful friend.
You're
Good to
welcome.
have you back.
Thanks. It's great to be back.
Yes, awesome, awesome. And give Norma a hug. I guess maybe we'll see you on Zoom after this.
Oh, yeah. We'll be on Zoom.
Okay, terrific.
All
All right,
right.
thanks, Nana. We'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
All right. All right, my friends. So our guest today, I'm very excited about our guest today. I think I have mentioned a couple of times, probably at least, or we're still in the beginning of the year. But my word for this year is gratitude. You know, it's all about Thanksgiving for me, and so I've wanted to share some of the people that have been part of my life journey, and especially particularly in ministry and with Centers for Spiritual Living, and just thank some of these folks and share them with you. Allow you to get to know who they are, and maybe also appreciate some of the impact that they've had on me, which then ripples out to each one of you. So my guest today is an instructor with the School of Spiritual Leadership in Florida, and that was how we met. Reverend Dr. Toni LaMotta. She is a provocative and inspiring speaker. She's a best-selling author and life coach. Toni's vision is to change the way the world views midlife and aging, and she inspires people to explore what they can be when they operate authentically and consciously at every age. She is the author of a book called Recognition, The Quality Way, and What You Really Want Wants You, and several other works on conscious aging. And so I personally want to thank her. Well, I'm going to bring her in first, and then I want to surprise her with a little something. So welcome, Dr. Toni.
Hi, Cindy. Great to
Thank you
be here.
so much for saying yes.
Easy to say yes to you, that's for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So one of the things people might not know, and you probably don't know this either, you may not remember, but I think the first class I took with you had to do with creating our brand and who we were, right? The website and like, what are you about and all of that. And I just had no idea. I had never made a website for myself. And so you asked us different things that inspired us. And I couldn't think of anything other than, like, I really love the colors of a peacock. And you said, well, go with that, go with that. And I started, investigating what is the symbolism of the peacock. And so you probably don't know this because you haven't been to the center in a while, but I want to show you what your inspiration did, because I took that ball and kind of ran with it, right? The idea of the peacock. And there's so much amazing symbolism, not to mention the colors are so beautiful. So you see, there's one behind me over here. And this is on my desk because now I'm the peacock person. So everybody gives me things that have to do with peacocks. And this actually is our space. Our space. So when you walk into the center, you come into these beautiful blues and purples and greens, and it's just really beautiful. And that was because somebody came into the center and said, you guys are so progressive and so awesome, and your space does not represent that. We need to dress it up. And so we took the peacock theme and ran it through the center. And that is a direct result of my time spent with you.
That's lovely. I love it.
So, Dr. Toni, so one of the things that you and I had in common was our background in growing up in the Catholic tradition, and that you did what I thought I was going to do when I was a kid, and that I wanted to be a nun.
Yeah, I did it for 17 years. I went in when I went in when I was 17. It was 16 years I spent in a convent, and I don't regret a moment of it. It was just, it laid the foundation for my mystical experiences. We lived in silence, so you had to learn to talk to God. And it was an amazing, amazing opportunity to do that. I remember a priest friend of mine came to visit and asked what I loved about being in the convent. And I said, I just love the way we pray. I love being able to, just be in that presence. Amazing. It really was an amazing experience. So
that, and you've been able to integrate that experience into your ministry as a science of mind,
well, you know what, Cindy, one of the things that I often say, people always say when they leave the Catholic Church, they call themselves recovering Catholics. And I don't believe there was anything to recover from, because I really understand that everything we go through in life is essential and it fits. And eventually you learn to integrate it. I'm involved in a philosophy now called integral theory, and I'm really practicing putting together the pieces of my life that have been significant and important, and they all fit. They all have a place. It's no longer I was Catholic and now I'm religious science. I'm all the above. And I really honor that and love that and teach that, because I think that it's really important. I'm finding in the new group that I have in ministerial school, they come from very diverse backgrounds. And at the end of the first class, when they really get, I don't have to give up who I was to be something new. I can embrace it and throw away the parts that didn't work, but then embrace that. And we use the words transcend and include. So we keep what was good, and then we move on to the next learning. And I'm always moving on to another learning. I'm a lifelong learner. You can see the doctor in front of my name. I love to study and I love to teach. And so I think it just shows. And I just want to share something that I thought was kind of fun when you were sharing your peacock. I use the dragonfly. You'll notice I even have a tattoo. And the dragonfly has become the symbol for everything I've done. And the dragonfly doesn't get its true colors until it reaches maturity. But it takes with it all of the things that it learned along the way, just as we do. So, I think that's my message for everybody. Rather than say, I wish that hadn't happened, look for a way that whatever happened in your life can be the springboard for the next thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
You know, that's actually one of the messages of the peacock, that a peacock eats poisonous berries and poisonous snakes and things that would kill other creatures, and its body somehow transmutes it. And they think maybe that's what has to do with the beautiful colors that come,
Interesting.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, and the dragonfly has all those colors too, it's wonderful. If you saw where I'm sitting right now, in front of me is a wall of all the dragonfly gifts I've been given over the years, and there's a mirror and a picture and a saying, and glasses, and it's just really lovely. So.
It is beautiful. I can't see a dragonfly without thinking of you.
Well, thank you. And now I won't see a peacock without thinking of you. So,
well, I love that you mentioned integral theory, because that's actually what made me think about you. I was listening to a podcast the other day with Ken Wilber, who started that idea of integral theory, and I had never heard about it before the ministerial program, where you brought that idea to the forefront for us. So I've not really talked with my congregation about it, but if you could give us a little, maybe kind of snapshot of what that is.
Oh, I wish I could. Integral theory is really a theory of everything. And Ken Wilber is one of the local and more immediate philosophers, but integral theory goes back long before Wilber even. Excuse me. He's the first one I studied with as well, and I have moved on to lots of other teachers. It really is a theory of everything. But the thing that I think helps most people in terms of integral theory that's accessible is looking at the fact that we grow by stages and we experience what's known as states. And the stages, when you start understanding stages, you recognize that everybody has to go through them, and that some people are at a different stage. One's not better than the other. They look like a ladder, so it looks like one's better than the other. But, there are people who are into, my country, right or wrong. We've had some experience of that recently, but those people are not wrong, but they are kind of stuck in that stage. And the rest of us hopefully have grown from there to then start saying, wait a minute, we've got to understand science and rules. And then there are people who then say, wait a minute, what about ecology? And we've got to be a lot more environmentally conscious. And eventually people come to say, wait a minute, all of it's important. So integral, as the word implies, excuse me, I got a frog in my voice today. But the word implies that we integrate everything we've had. One of the other integral theorists talks about all of those are different structures that we have to experience at different periods in our life. And the interesting thing about people who look at the developmental process is that what they discover is that all of development is leading us towards oneness. So while it is not a spiritual or religious teaching, ultimately that's where it leads us. So it's absolutely profound. And one of the other things, and Cindy and I talked the other day, and we talked about one of the things that integral teaches is what is called AQUAL. It's 4 quadrants. But to simplify it, I want to just describe, it talks about everything is either I or we, you or it. We all are experienced, we're totally familiar with that. So all of our experiences are not full experiences until we look at it through 3 different lenses. So let me give you an example. Someone who's sitting here listening to us right now, when you leave this, what do we call it, live stream, you leave the live stream and somebody says, so what happened today? The first thing you'll say is, well, there was this woman on the screen initially, and then she introduced another woman who was very beautiful and did a wonderful prayer. And then they had a third person come on and they started talking together. And so you would be describing what happened. Mm-hmm. And then the person you're telling might say, well, who was there? Was there anybody there that I might have known? And they said, oh yeah, you've met Reverend Cindy before. She was the one that was leading it. And then they would talk about the different people that were there. And that's the we part of it. And then someone would say, well, how did you feel about it? And then they would start to talk about their own experience of what happened when they were listening. And all three of those, we don't always do that in life. Sometimes we get stuck with one of them. And so the object is to move to a fuller experience of life. And it's a transformative experience when we experience, everybody talks about living in the now. Well, living in the now, living fully in the now, allows us to live through all of those different perspectives. And the more perspectives we take, the more grown up we are, let's say. They call it an integral growing up and waking up. When we grow, as we grow up, we take greater and more perspectives in life.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I resonate so much with it because work, as I mentioned to you, that I do with the people in bringing people together in circle, right? There may be an incident, something went wrong, somebody was hurt, there was a betrayal, and we bring all the players into the circle. And in the circle, everyone has a voice, everyone is seen, everyone is equal. And it's like having a 360 camera in the middle of the incident, and you're getting to see all of the different perspectives of it. So it grows us as human beings. It grows our perspective and our understanding of what another might be going through. And then there's the moment of circle magic where you see yourself in somebody else, right? Someone who looks very different than you or has had a very different life experience and speaks truth that could have come from your heart. Yeah.
Having that experience recently, I'm involved in an organization that does something called We Space, W-E space. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on in my voice. Anyway, it's groups of people coming together to share our lives and then to share mystical kinds of experiences with one another and to actually meditate and pray together. And one woman showed up in one of the groups that I'm in, and she didn't know how to deal with her camera. So she appeared as totally spastic. I mean, she was all over the place and she was moving all the time and making all kinds. And, my immediate judgment would be, oh my God, how am I going to deal with her? And I silenced that, fortunately, right away. She has turned out to be one of my most profound teachers. When she opens her mouth, I listen because every word out of her is golden. It's amazing. And so it teaches you, as you start listening, when you, I'm so sorry. You listen from the point of view that everyone has something to teach you, it becomes absolutely profound. Everyone. And that's, that I remember years ago, I did run a church for a long time. And I gave a talk one time that I mentioned the words, when someone says something I disagree with, I find myself saying, isn't that interesting? And I sometimes say it out loud, only if the person could handle it. But I say it to myself and then I think, I wonder what their background must be. I wonder what their life situation must be. I wonder why they think that way. Because every one of us has a different perspective. And so rather than saying they were ridiculous or they were wrong and I'm right, I simply say, wow, I need to know more. And when it's appropriate, I actually ask for that more and come to see amazing things that I never would have noticed before. So it really is. Isn't that interesting? It's a practice. It's now my spiritual practice. So
that's awesome. And I was just reading, in fact, I was just teaching on this, that it's actually the precursor to empathy. That you don't have to be able to jump right into, I feel you, right? I get it. Because sometimes we just don't get where other people are coming from. But if we could cultivate a curiosity about who they are and why they think the way they do and why they're showing up, that then could lead the way to empathy and deeper understanding. So I love that you're calling it a spiritual practice, because I think I'm going to take that on.
It's quite a practice, and it really has helped me through so much of these crazy times in 2020 to look at people who everybody else is denouncing and saying, how do they think that way? Why do they think that way? And to stop and say, I wonder why they think that way. And they must have a reason. And can we really? And I think that that's what unity and healing is about, to recognize that people want to be heard. And everybody wants to be seen, heard, and understood. Actually, one of my first books was exactly that. Recognition is all about the deepest desire in all of us is for someone to see us, to hear us, to understand us. And if we could start being and doing that for everyone, imagine a world. Many years ago, I wrote my personal mission statement, and it was a world community of communities where each person's gifts are fully expressed and fully accepted. Imagine that, Yeah. And so it is one of my tasks in life is that as I meet people, to help cultivate their gifts, whatever they might be.
Right.
And including my own.
Sure. Which goes into creating a world that works for everyone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's why we resonate. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love the idea of integral theory and how we don't have to say this is right or this is wrong, but it's all part of the same. It's all part of our evolution and our growth as human beings. Another one of the aspects of it, I think, has to do with our relationship with the higher power, with ourself, the God of our understanding, that I think was also pretty unique in this idea of integral theory.
Yeah, one of the things that I learned early on, and I've been actually practicing with him, was from a man named Paul Smith. Paul is a former Baptist minister who's 82 years old. And a number of years ago, he discovered, as the Baptist church was condemning him for his beliefs, he discovered he was gay, and he left a marriage and joined a partner. And Paul has broken all barriers. His partner is African-American and 30 years younger than him. So he's one of my models in life. Paul is just a dear gem. And he wrote a book called The Three Faces of God. And when I first heard that, it opened me to a whole new relationship with God, is all I can say. And so I'd love to describe that. And that fits in with what I was talking about before, the three aspects. If you look back at Jesus and the way Jesus he talked about God very often. He talked to God. He called God Abba, which in his terminology meant both mother and father. I mean, we translate it as father, but it meant both in that time. And then he said, I and the Father are one. He talked as God. So the three faces, we can I don't know if you want me to go on with that, because I love this whole thing. It's the God that is infinite. In religious science, we're really good with that. We see the ground of being, all that is, the source of all life. We talk about who God is from that point of view. It's just like everything that exists, and it's God absolutely beyond us. The infinite face of God is what I would call it. And in Paul's writings, he says, so ask yourself, how big is your God? And for a while, I started teaching at a group called the Cosmic Center. And they were really into outer space and cosmic thinking and beyond stuff that I was comfortable with, really. But what it made me do is ask the question, is my God big enough? How big is my God? I mean, they were out there. And so my God is a lot bigger as a result of having been with them. And it's quite wonderful. And then, so that's the first, and, I could go on for a long time. We don't have a lot of time, but the infinite face of God is that God beyond us. And then there is the God beside us. That's the intimate God. And that that Jesus talked about Abba, Father, and many of the mystics called God my beloved. I think Mother Teresa used to call God her beloved, and I know when I came into religious science, I missed that part because we no longer talked to God. We speak as God when we do treatments and prayer, and so I started like researching this a little bit more, and I've gotten into really looking at what I learned in the Catholic Church about the communion of saints and the angels. I remember as a child I named my guardian angel, and so I've like reincorporated that. I integrated that in my life now, and so now I talk to God as well as think about God. So that is a closeness. It also talks about who we are together. That whole namaste, I see the God in you. So the God is more than just, it is personal because we are interpersonal with one another. And so the second question, so how big is your God? How close is your God? Is your God close or is it something distant? And then the third is the inner God. And we're pretty good at that. And I think that we teach that God is within each and every one of us. And we recognize, I think in theology, they call it panentheism, that the universe is in us and we're in the universe. And so we get that there is a God in us. And that for some people, especially people who are new to a teaching like this, coming from, let's say, fundamental churches, that's a radical idea, to say that God's actually within each and every one of us. And one time I heard, that the children of elephants are elephants. The children, the offspring of a dog is a dog. So wouldn't the offspring of God be God's? Think of it that way. It's that really struck me when I read it. And I remember hearing Jean Houston call us, I think she called us godlings. And I thought that was a great, and then I heard someone else, I can't remember who it was, called us baby divines. And that, that resonated a little bit more with me. I can't sit and say I am God and I'm all there is, but I am a part of God, like the drop of an ocean is part of the ocean. So the third question would simply be, is your God you enough? And so we have the infinite, the intimate, the inner, beyond, beside, within, and then big, close, and you. I've just done a week's worth of teaching in about 10 minutes here. So those things are fascinating. And I will stay for the Zoom meeting if anybody wants to talk a little bit more about any of this. I'd be happy to. But to me, those are, to really look at how am I relating to God. I also, Cindy, I know you're into music. I also like to look at music and say which of the three faces of God are included in that. And then when I teach how to create ceremonies and rituals, I teach, make sure you're including all three faces in that ritual. Make sure at some point you're talking about God, you're talking to God, and you're recognizing God within. So.
Love that. So much. I in the I got them right. The first one, how big, right? God and
how big is your God? Yeah.
Right? Big than any imagine. Close is your one.
You know what, Cindy, I know something's going on with pulling her back in because your voice was going in and out. Okay, you're back.
Okay. How close was the first question? How close is your God? Is your God?
Oops. We're losing you again. How big is your God? How close is your God? And how you is your God?
Can you hear me in real time?
Yeah, a little bit. Your picture is distorted, but
it's going on. Thank you for acknowledging that, because like I feel God, you said talk kind of way when I go for science. Be very internally, God is, the overall big thing, but personal relation. And it's nice to have that again.
Yeah, and I think even when we teach spiritual mind treatment, I remember when I first taught it, and I mean, most people get the fact that, all right, we're trying to say God and I are one, but we are talking initially about the infinite God, and then we talk about the inner God. We don't really talk about the intimate God as such. But, when I study people like Joel Goldsmith, I mean, he's just saying, go right to the relationship with God, and you can bypass all the other steps. So it's like really looking at all three and seeing if they're balanced in my life. That's the best way I would describe it.
Yeah. And I wanted, because that was another with you, was craftsmanship and the idea of being able to address those differences. But I think that in terms of putting it together or a presentation from all of the so that.
Oh, Cindy, we're losing you again. You're going in and out. Your voice and your picture are both going in and out.
Darn. I don't know now. No?
No, not yet.
Darn. Well,
how much longer do we have? I can keep talking a little bit.
Keep hearing me? Keep talking.
Okay, well, I think that, when I started talking about music, for example, the infinite God, I remember an experience once. I went on a cruise to Alaska, and I took one of these little planes that you go in, or, a helicopter that landed on a glacier. And when I got out at the glacier, I just started to cry, and I burst out in singing the song, How Great Thou Art. That was an experience of the infinite God. And I think for all of us, it's probably a good idea to take a journal out and think about, when were the experiences in your life where you knew that God was bigger than anything that you had ever imagined? What were your experiences like? I think journaling on those things are really wonderful. The intimate God, you might even find like a spiritual guide if you're close enough and want to talk to Jesus, because that's the whole point of Jesus coming, to allow God to be more intimate with us. So if you're comfortable talking to Jesus, that would be a wonderful thing. Otherwise, many people talk to either their guardian angel or even spiritual guides. I have found recently that some of my teachers who are no longer on this plane have become guides for my life. I studied with Barbara Marx Hubbard, for example, or Wayne Dyer. I communicate with Wayne Dyer when I want to write a book. He's really resourceful. He can teach you a great deal. I mean, you can go to all of these different things. I'm studying mysticism, so I now have Teresa of Avila as my guide. And it's amazing when I have questions, I can just record them in my journal and have Teresa answer. So to me, those are ways of experiencing the intimate God. And the God being you, I think that one's probably a little bit more challenging, but I have a friend lately who has just been exploring the whole thought of I am. And every time he talks, he says, when I come from the I am space and recognize who I really am, he said, it changes all of my relationships. He's got some challenges going on with his wife. And he said, she came blasting at him about something. And he said, I was able to stand there and listen, because realize that she was just talking to this shell that's here, not to the I am, the essence of who I am. And so he said, it makes such a difference when I can respond to her from that I am presence. And to me, that's what the God within is all about, responding as that, So with that, I'm not sure. you know, what else? The other thing is to look at some music too, and which songs evoke that for you. You know, some of the real old-fashioned songs that I love every now and then, even though they assault my understanding of God now. But you know, the song coming to my mind right now, "I'll Walk with God" from This Day On. I don't know how many of you remember that from fundamental kind of days. It's like, I'll talk with God, and He'll be with me. It's like, that's the intimate God. And you know, so many of the songs in New Thought or the God within, I think that we recognize often. So Cindy, are you back? Do you think you can?
Am I back? No?
Yeah, yep, that was better.
Okay. Thank you. I have issues. I don't know, but it's on Zoom. I'll have some questions to talk about this.
See us on Zoom. So are you going to post the link to Zoom? Does everybody know where to
Yes.
go?
Yes, we will. Okay. Well, Dr. Joe, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. This is a pleasure.
About the tech, we can pick a conversation and we have a part again.
Not understanding, unfortunately.
All right. All right. Zoom.
Okay. See you on Zoom.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, shoot. Don, I don't know if you're in and out.
You're going in and out, but I'm not sure if you can hear me. So if you can hear me, I can go ahead and take over if you like.
Why don't you do self out?
If you could just chat with me in the private chat. Hey, everybody, it's Donna. I'm taking over for Reverend Cindy. I'm the new Reverend Cindy. Just kidding. That was an amazing talk today, and I can't wait to hop into Zoom. So now we're at the part of, after all of that, we're at the part of our gathering today where we talk about our divine gifts and giving. And I know that Reverend Cindy's going to click that on the screen for me since, yeah. So here we are, sharing our gifts. And I invite you to say it with me. It is the nature of life to give of itself, as it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom. It is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am so grateful, and so it is. And there's so many easy ways for you to go ahead and give to this movement and to this particular Center for Spiritual Living. You can text the tithe at 352-320-5110 or donate via PayPal at www.cslocala.org/donate. And it is scrolling along the bottom there, so you can go ahead and grab it. You can also go to our website and just click on that donate button. We appreciate every single donation that comes in, because it really is worth it. This is how we get this message out there in a world that has challenges right now and just need a different way of thinking. And Dr. Toni was asking what the Zoom link is. It's going to be in your, it's right there in Facebook, as well into the Facebook chat, as well as in the YouTube discussion. The Zoom link has been pulled up there. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. And so now we'd like to do our benediction. And we'll meet you on Zoom. It's right there in the chat on Facebook Live, as well as in the YouTube chat room. So just go ahead and grab that Zoom and meet us there, and we'll have more deliciousness and really get down and talk some more to Reverend Dr. Toni. And now the benediction. And so I am hoping that you remember it and that I remember it by heart, because we don't really have a slide, but here we go. Taking a deep breath in, shaking out the worries of whatever internet is and whatever audio is, and just knowing that the message still comes forward in a mighty and powerful way. And so it is from that space that we say, thank you so much. And we say the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Namaste. The light in me salutes the awesome, wonderful light in you. I can't wait to see you on Zoom.